What's going on, everyone? So, the opening scene in a Scream film is just like it's the bread and butter, right? It's the thing that gets the party going, right? Without the opening scene and just a great sequence to kind of set the tone on what to expect for this upcoming film, kind of have that little shock value a little bit, just that great acting and intensity, right? Like you have these things over the years. You look at all the Scream movies, they all had these just like great opening sequences, right? Obviously, some were better than others, but in general, I think the consensus was like, hey, these were all really good opening sequences, right? Some of them were a little more kind of like Scream 4, for example, where it's like the movie within the movie within the movie within the movie, right? Like there was a lot of just fun opening scenes. But you go back to even like Scream 96 and you look at Drew Barrymore, right? And just the perception of like, oh, this is going to be the star. Oh, we're starting off with the big iconic actress who's starring in the slasher film. Oh my, what did they just do? Like, it's like those kind of things, the shock value, the twist that changed it. And then, I mean, even getting back into the more recent installments, right? Scream 6 kind of did, it was almost like a grocery list of all the fan favorites, right? All kind of rolled into one. Early killer reveal, right? Early killer death, right? You just had like all these just fun sequences that I really enjoyed, and I appreciated them kind of doing that for Scream 6. I thought that it was just one of the funner openings. I had my gripes about Scream 6 and whatnot, but I thought that that was actually something that I enjoyed as far as Scream 6. And then Scream 5, I felt like they just got back to basics, right? Scream 5, again, I've had my complaints, I've had my issues with, and I felt like was kind of a carbon copy in a lot of ways, and especially the opening sequence. I mean, that was like shot for shot, but that was more intentional. That was a little bit more deliberate and purposeful, which again, I'm totally okay for. I actually enjoyed, like, the opening scene was one of my favorite sequences because you had Jenna Ortega that I thought did an excellent job in the acting field, in the acting department, in that opening scene. I thought it was just very reminiscent of the classic and iconic just Drew Barrymore sequence, right? Like, it was fun. It was really good. Well, with the upcoming Scream 7, there's a lot of directions in which they could go with the opening scene. Also, a lot of questions in which how will they approach and go about the opening scene. But one of the things that I kind of want to talk about, and of course, I want to hear your thoughts and opinions, so let me know down in the comments below, is more so, should they approach this with Sidney or should they go with another route? So, just more likely than not, if we're being honest, they're probably going to approach this as the, like, here's a sequence with maybe a famous cameo or something, right? Samara Weaving, Scream 6 type thing, where it's like, okay, here's an actor or actress that you're familiar with that dies and serves a purpose for X, Y, and Z reasons, right? That's probably how this goes. Is probably going to be the sequence in which they go about it and approach it. But I also think that you could go the route of, okay, this is supposed to be a Sidney and family driven movie, right? Why not have the opening sequence be her and her family being targeted, right? And you could establish that and set that up a multitude of ways. You could have something where she's extremely well prepared, boom, takes out Ghostface. Like, maybe the kill is reversed, right? So instead of, usually you get the opening sequence and, some actor or actress ends up meeting their end, and that kind of sets up the film. Well, what if it's a Ghostface that meets their end? What if, Sidney is attacked, she's prepared, she's the superstar beast that she is, and she takes out, let's say, 2 killers. Right? Like, that would be a fun, different, unique experience as far as opening scenes go. Maybe she thinks it's over, it's done, okay, we're good, right? I always knew they'd come back, but I was prepared, I was ready, I was able to kind of, get that over swiftly. You could even kind of use that as kind of like a tongue-in-cheek nod to Halloween, right? With Laurie Strode and how she, basically spent her entire life preparing for Michael's return. You could kind of have a little fun sort of play with that, right? But you could also go the route to where, maybe maybe they take one of her children and that kind of sets things up. And now you got this just like, okay, now she's in a race for time to try to go save her child and her kid. And that's how she gets Gail involved and whatnot. She contacts Gail like, hey, I need your help. They got my kid. Maybe Gail's a little reluctant at first. And she's like, like, oh, I'm still recovering. I just had that attack from the previous Ghostface. Like, I don't know if I'm in the best condition. And she's just like, Gail, please, like, they got my kid, right? Or they got, whatever, right? That could be something that she goes, okay, fine. Right. And now you kind of is the catalyst draw everybody in, or maybe Mark Kincaid gets captured or something, right? Like there's a lot of ways that you go about it. I mean, again, let's get a little creative. Let's have a little fun. Right? Like, because the whole point of the opening sequence of Scream is to kind of establish something, set the tone, right? Even like with Cotton in Scream 3, right? Like it set and established the narrative and tone, right? You got the Hollywood aspect of it. You got Cotton, who has the connection to Sidney. Ghostface is trying to find and track down Sidney. Cotton has information. He doesn't give it up. He dies, right? Like it set and established what you wanted to expect. I mean, even Scream 5, yes, it was in many ways a kind of carbon copy version of Scream 96, but it was more brutal. It was darker, right? It set the tone for the rest of the film. Where if you look back at 96, again, that was a film where Ghostface was a little more goofy, right? And played with their food a little much, right? And it's just like kind of this drawn out, like keep playing games, keep messing with them. Like Ghostface had, Billy and Stu had multiple opportunities to take out Casey and just decided not to, right? Just kept drawing it out. Again, all these things kind of set the tone, set the pace for your next film and installment. So I think you could kind of use this as a way to, okay, this is going to be a Sidney-focused film. This is going to be a Sidney-esque film. Let's kind of use Sidney as the opening scene and catalyst to do that. Maybe somebody else dies. Maybe it's the nanny. Maybe it's the neighbor. Maybe it's whatever, right? The other kind of way that kind of comes to mind is maybe you do like a Halloween H2O type thing, right? Where, if you remember in Halloween H2O, which, spoiler alerts, if you haven't seen that movie, that's on you. But, I mean, that movie's old enough, right? Movie's like 20 years old now. But, right, like, so the opening sequence is, the nurse, right? And you had, what's his name? Gordon Levitt's, right? Like, he's the kid with the hockey stick, right? But anyway, Michael goes and breaks into the nurse's house to try to get the information, try to track down and find Laurie, right? What if that's something that you kind of do, which again, you could argue like, well, that was Scream 3, right? Like they didn't have that as the opening sequence, but if you remember, there was the dialogue from Dewey where he says, somebody breaks down, tries to steal the file, and Dewey's like, I replaced it. I swapped it before they did it, right? Like that whole thing. So, like you could maybe, have Sidney, like use Sidney to set it up, but not directly have it be Sidney and the family, right? Like if you get my drift. But regardless, I mean, obviously I want a good opening scene. I want a good opening sequence. I need you to have something in which, we kind of latch onto and go, okay, like, there we go. That really did set and establish the tone. That really set and established what this Scream film is trying to do, the direction and narrative that they're trying to go, right? Like the opening sequence usually tells you a lot about the film, right? Like, I mean, even if you want to look and get into Scream 6, right? You had 3 killers in the opening. Guess what? How many killers there were? 3 killers in the end, right? Because you had, what's Greg and Jason Greg, right? But you also had, Ghostface end up taking them out. So there were 3 killers, which was foreshadowing, right? Like there's a million things that you could look at in every single one of these opening sequences that in hindsight you go back and you go, oh, okay, that makes sense. Little Easter eggs, little clues, little hints. It's all intentional. And so to me, it's like, I like the idea of, you want to stick with that trend, use Sidney to do so, and then kind of set up for the rest going forward. It's just kind of my thoughts. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you like the idea of like, yeah, get Sidney involved, have her be the opening scene? Obviously, again, they're not going to kill her or anything like that, but you could have her, maybe get roughed up a little bit, or like I said, maybe she takes out Ghostface, whatever. Again, how do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.